Alright, so today we're going to be talking about fursonas again. Though in this video, we're not going to be nearly as philosophical as the last two times we talked about them. Previously, we've been talking about what fursonas mean to the members of this fandom. But today, I want to get back to the basics and talk about how to make a fursona. Now, there are a lot of things that go into the design of a fursona, but one of, if not the most important decision that you have to make when designing one is choosing the colors. Even though there is just as much personal choice as the rest of the fursona, there are guidelines and techniques on what colors you choose that are backed by science. I mean, there's a reason why some fursona designs stand out more than others. Everyone's is special in their own way, but I'm sure we've all come across a fursona that just simply looks fantastic. What if I told you there's a secret code behind those captivating fursonas? It's like a hidden language of color that could be the difference between making your design pop or fade into obscurity. Understanding this code is the key to creating characters that truly stand out. So that's what we're going to be tackling today. We're going to unlock the power of color theory and show how to use it to your advantage when creating your fursona. We'll explore why some fursonas grab attention while others blend into the background, and reveal the techniques to create characters that people can't help but notice. Let me explain. You know that feeling when you see a character design that just pops? Well, in many of those cases, that pop is not by accident. There are many tools in the world of color theory that members of this fandom employ to aid in the design of their fursonas, and knowing how to use these tools can help someone with zero artistic ability come up with something that looks pretty good. And trust me, I would know. So let's start with one of the fundamentals of color theory, the color wheel. Picture the color wheel as a bustling furry convention. Each hue has its own personality, and they're all mingling in ways that you might not have noticed before. Let's start with the guests of honor of this color convention. Primary colors. Red, blue, and yellow, they're like the founding members of the con. They're the building blocks for all the other colors that we see, and you're going to see them, or parts of them, no matter where you look. Next up, we have secondary colors. You could think of them as the power couples that are formed when primaries get together. Green, orange, and purple, they're all the results of these colorful companions. But the mixing doesn't stop there. Tertiary colors are like the fun little groups that form when a primary and a secondary color start to chat. These are those blue-greens, or those red-purples, or the more earthy browns and tans that you actually see a lot of in this fandom. Those are all tertiary colors, and they really add depth to our palette. Now that's great and all that we have all these types of colors to choose from, but actually choosing from them makes a difference as well. And as backwards as this might sound, the further away these colors are on the color wheel, the higher the chance that they actually work together. This concept is known as choosing complementary colors. Red and green, blue and orange, yellow and purple. These pairs make your fursona stand out because they allow each color to stand on its own. And honestly, this is where I would start if you have no background in design or art. Choose a color that you like, go on the other side of the color wheel, and use that as the start of your fursona's color palette. Now, it's not just colors on the opposite side of the color wheel that can work together. If used correctly, colors right next to each other can also work well together too. These are called analogous colors, or the BFFs of the color world. Think of those sunset-themed fursonas with red, oranges, and yellows, or fursonas that keep their earthy tones like greens, browns, and a little bit of yellow. When mixed together with care, they create a harmonious look that's easy on the eyes. And then there's all the other little considerations that can make a big difference in the color design of your fursona. This includes things like color temperature. Warm colors like reds, oranges, and yellows bring energy to your design, whereas cool colors like blues, greens, and purples bring a sense of calm and relaxation. And I'm not just making that up. There is a lot of study behind the emotions that different colors evoke when we look at them. Blues tend to give off a feeling of calmness and trustworthiness, which is why a lot of social apps use that as their primary color. While on the other end, reds could pump us up with passion. Like when someone wears a red tie, they almost command their own attention. Greens make us think of nature, while yellow is like a burst of happiness. The list goes on. But the truth of the matter is, by understanding these relationships, you're orchestrating a visual symphony for your fursona. You're telling a story without words, creating a mood, and even hinting at your character's personality. And again, even if you have no artistic bone in your body, just understanding the basics of color theory can make a huge difference in your fursona design. So now we have all this information about all these colors to work with. We know what colors work where and how they relate to each other. But now we actually have to take all of them and apply them to a fursona. Now, there are a lot of ways to start adding color to your fursona, but a pretty common strategy that you'll see in this fandom a lot is the 3-point method, where you choose a color as a base, one as an accent, and one or even a couple of colors to fill in everything else. First things first, let's start with the base color. This is the foundation of your entire fursona, like the main ingredient in your character concoction. But here's the thing, you can't just slap on any old color and call it a day. Well, I mean, I guess you technically can, but this color is that important. Your base color actually does a lot of heavy lifting. It sets the tone, creates the mood, and gives your fursona its personality the second someone lays eyes on it. For example, I went with purple as my base because I wanted something dark and on the cooler side without resorting to just black. Purple is also in the blue color family, which gives off that more relaxed, chill vibe that I was going for with Finn. Now, once you have your base color, it's time to add some pop with an accent color. This is where the magic really starts to happen. Choosing a good accent on top of your base is what gives your fursona depth color-wise. And as we mentioned earlier, the easiest way to start looking for your accent is the color wheel. That's why this yellow works so well against this purple. It's on the opposite end of the color wheel, the polar opposite. Once you have that, then you can start choosing your fill-in colors, which is just colors for all the other stuff that you want to highlight in your character's design. For instance, my rosettes and my nose are black, and my tongue is this pinkish red. There's no crazy thought about these colors, they just finish the anthro animal that I'm designing. Now, here's where things can get a bit tricky. Choosing colors is one thing, but we also need to talk about two other factors that go into what a color is: saturation and brightness. If your colors are too bright and saturated, your fursona might blind someone, or more realistically, be overwhelming to look at. Too little, and they might fade into the background of all the other sonas that are out there and be easy to miss. It's all about balance. You want your fursona to pop and stand out, but not disappear or give someone a headache. It's like seasoning food. You want to add enough to enhance a dish, but not overpower it. Another thing you want to watch out for is how many colors you choose. Here's a little secret from the pros. Sometimes less is more. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but trust me on this one. Artists, like professional character designers, often limit their color palette to just 3 to 5 colors. Why? Because it prevents clutter and lets each color play a starring role all on its own. They don't want to try and recreate the entire spectrum on one fursona. I mean, think about it. If all colors were treated special, then none of them really are. This is why I like starting with 3 colors. In fact, that strategy has a name. It's called using the triadic color scheme. This means using 3 colors that are relatively evenly spaced on the color wheel. It's like a color triangle that you could create vibrant and dynamic designs with while still keeping everything in harmony. It's a classic amongst pros for a reason, and it's something that you can implement into your design as well. Now, I will say that implementing all of these strategies along with color takes some practice. You might not nail it on your first try. In fact, I almost guarantee that you won't, and that's okay. In fact, that's part of the process. I've seen characters that have started with a whole rainbow of colors be transformed by simplifying the palette to just 3 to 5 colors, resulting in a much more cohesive and striking design that honestly looked a lot better than before. Remember, we're not just randomly coloring here. We're crafting a visual identity. Every color choice you make is telling a part of your fursona's story. Are they bold and energetic, cool and mysterious? Your color palette is doing a lot of the talking before your character even opens its mouth. With all of this in mind, let's talk about some color mistakes that tend to derail the design of fursonas. Even with all the color theory knowledge in the world, there are still some traps that could snag even the most careful creators. And let's start with the simplest mistake that we've been talking about this whole time, the more is more mentality. We've alluded to this earlier, but adding every color in the rainbow into your fursona might sound fun, but it can be visually fatiguing to look at, let alone draw. Your fursona might end up looking disjointed and confusing instead of one cohesive unit. The same idea goes for color gradients. Gradients are interesting because on paper, or more accurately on screen, they look really cool, but on a fursona, it's not that simple. Using a lot of gradients in character designs can result in a muddled appearance, especially when artists try to draw them with shadows. Now, very subtle fades into different colors might work, but this is something that you don't want to overdo. Otherwise, your sona might end up looking like a furry lava lamp. Again, the name of the game here is simplicity. A simple, well thought out color scheme can be way more striking than something that's overly complex. And again, it's not just me saying this. There's a lot of research that suggests that simplicity often leads to stronger designs. Now, I'm saying all of this, and I'm sure you've either seen or even have a fursona that breaks all of these rules. And that doesn't surprise me. In art, rules almost entice you to break them. But even in those situations, those designs are still very well thought out and carefully considered, as random as they might seem. That's why they work. If you have a mastery of color theory, you can use the foundations of its principles to make something that looks totally unique but unstandardized to the untrained eye. Again, it's like cooking. Chefs who know how food works might make a dish out of ingredients that might not sound like they would work together, but the finished product might end up tasting delicious. That's due to them having a mastery over the art. And if you're a beginner like me, sticking to well-known color recipes will get your Fursona off the ground with something that works really well. All right, let's wrap this up. Creating a Fursona is a journey of self-expression, and the colors you choose are like windows into your personality. What really matters is how your Fursona makes you feel. This is why I'm giving such an importance to color. It is arguably the most important part of your identity in this fandom, so it behooves you to make something that works while still representing who you are. Remember, this is your creation, your furry persona, and creating something like that should be an amusing challenge. Have fun with the process, try different color combinations, play around with the shades, and don't be afraid to hit erase and start over. You may be aiming for one thing and might surprise yourself with what you come up with. And as someone who has no artistic bones in their body, trust me, anyone can make something that works. Your perfectly colored Fursona is waiting for you to bring it to life, and now that you have a foundational understanding of color theory, all that's left is to get it out there for the fandom to see. Alright, that's it for this one. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next one, but until then, stay wild out there. Peace.